Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today we need to bring our second type guide for Pokémon TCG Pocket. I am loving this game at the moment. I am playing a huge amount of it, and I've started to cover it a lot on this channel, as you guys have probably noticed. Have literally been since the day it was announced. But I did my guide for Lightning there a couple of days ago. And as long as people watch these, as long as they're popular enough, I'm going to do a guide for every typing. But given how big Lightning is at the moment, and given how good fighting can be as a counter to it, it seems only fair that this becomes our second guide. So with Lightning, I told you that the hands down, far away, best way to play this was Pikachu EX. When it comes to fighting, I don't think we've got something like that. So what have we got? If we start off with the EXs, because I do think that's a good place to start, we've got a good one and a bad one. The bad one is Machamp. We've actually got a lot of tournaments starting with Pokemon TCG Pocket now. Nobody is playing Machamp. It's not happening. Machamp is terrible. And the thing is, there's actually stuff to like about Machamp. The fact that it's got 180 HP, but then it still gets 2-hit by most things. Like Pikachu will still 2-hit KO it, Starmie will still 2-hit KO it. Now it does do 120 damage, which is quite nice, and that will be enough to get Pikachu. But actually, Zapdos has 130, so you won't even get Zapdos, which is a huge problem. And Starmie's got 130, so you won't one-hit Starmie. So it's just not good enough. Don't play it. The good EX here is Marowak. And I do think Marowak is a good EX. I like Marowak. It might be my single favorite card in the set, honestly. 2 energy, flip 2 coins, 80 for each heads. So your second turn attaching energy, you can have this rolling. And then double heads, you hit 160. 160 will KO basically anything. No, it won't get Venusaur, but it will get basically anything else. It is great. But you could also flip double tails and do nothing, or you could flip single heads. And single heads is kind of annoying because you'll get a lot of single prizes and evolving Pokemon. But like even with weakness, single heads won't get Pikachu, which is honestly super annoying. So it's good, but it's incredibly flippy, and that's something you do have to watch out for. In terms of EXs, though, there's no question. This is far and away better than Machamp. Machamp, too much energy, too much evolution. It's just not good enough. So if we take Marowak as our best EX here, what have we got in terms of partners? Well, I think right now there is a clear best stage 1 line for fighting decks, and it is Primeape. Now, Primeape is quite nice. We've got 2 energy, 40 damage, but if this Pokemon has any damage on it, it does 60 more damage. Okay, that's 100, and with weakness, that means you get a KO on Pikachu, which is huge. But the problem was, all we had was this Mankey that does single energy 20. It's not good enough. But then the Lapras event happened, and we got promo Mankey. And I told you when I made that video about the Lapras event, I told you that the best thing about that event was Mankey. And it is. Firstly, single energy 30. If you're hitting for weakness and you play Giovanni, you hit 60. So you will get a KO. And as I explained in my Lightning video yesterday, Voltorb seeing play, that's got 60 HP. Magnemite seeing a little bit, that's got 60 HP. Pikachu seeing a little bit, that's got 60 HP. Blitzel seeing a little bit, that's got 60 HP. You will get a bunch of these fighting Pokemon. You will need to play Giovanni. But if you play Giovanni, you can hit 60 turn 1 going second and get a bunch of cheeky KOs. And if I'm playing this Mankey, I'm playing Giovanni because the potential there is absolutely huge. But you also do 10 to yourself, which means you are then damaged, which means that you then evolve, attach a second energy, and Primeape hits for 100 damage. Now, the 90 HP is a problem. You get 1 hit by Starmie, you get 1 hit by Pikachu. It's not ideal. Means in a lot of games you'll only actually get one Primeape you can use properly in the early game. But I don't care, because it's so good. Primeape is phenomenal, and then Primeape runs out, then you use a single prizer, and then you finish off with Marowak. Essentially, make your opponent play a 4-point game, have them KO 2 single prizes, and then Marowak comes in as your EX. It's got 140 HP, double heads hits 160, and it is essentially the final boss that your opponent has to go through to win the game. But there are some other good fighting stage 1s around. Regular Marowak, single energy 40 is fine, but it's also got 100 HP. So Starmie and Pikachu can KO it, but they have to use Giovanni to do so. They might not be playing it. Even if they are playing it, they might not draw into it. That is great news for you. You can often get 2 hits with this before it goes down, and 40 is not phenomenal, but it's respectable. And it's also a decent, if you go first, you evolve into it, attach an energy, and it's your turn second going first Pokemon. Although I prefer Dugtrio. I love Dugtrio. I think Dugtrio is brilliant. Marowak EX Dugtrio, by the way, is a deck I am most playing right now. It is my number 1 favourite deck. I don't think it's the best deck, too flippy, but it is my favourite. Now, Dugtrio has 70 HP, and as I keep explaining, you really want to be above 90 if you can. This is miles below. But single energy, 40 damage, flip a coin. If heads, you got immunity next turn. Prevent all damage from an effective attack done to this Pokemon. And the only way around it is for your opponent to play Sabrina. And they might have Sabrina. Sabrina's a great card. If they play Sabrina and force this to the bench, then they do, and that's fine. But otherwise, you can get immunity for a turn on a coin flip. And Dugtrio Marowak, if you can flip enough heads, is basically unbeatable. If you flip enough heads, which is obviously a very, very, very big if. The other one that a bunch of people are playing here is Sandslash. It is your classic 2 energy 70. But it's got 100 HP, which, as I keep explaining, is a key number. It does the same damage as Voltorb does, as I showed you in yesterday's video. But it has more HP, and like I say, the difference in 90 and 100 HP in this game, absolutely gigantic. So that's where Sandslash comes in quite nicely. The other one I'm seeing people play, but I'm not really seeing people have much success with at all, is Kabutops. It does 50, heals 50 while having 140 HP, which is great. But not only is it a stage 2, it's a stage 2 that evolves from a fossil, so it's super awkward to actually play with. It's not good. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I'm looking at a lot of tournament results right now, and I'm seeing people play it, but put it this way, the Kabutops deck, according to LimitlessTCG.com, has a win rate of 32%. It's not good enough, ladies and gentlemen. It's just not. The other card I think you really should be paying attention to in this deck is Hitmonlee. I love Hitmonlee. Hitmonlee is brilliant. Single energy, and it does 30 to one of your opponent's bench. It basically does what Zeb Striker does, which I mentioned in yesterday's video was good, except it's a basic, not a stage 1. And Zeb Striker's got 90 HP, you've got 80, but there's not a huge difference between 80 and 90. 90 and 100, huge difference. 80 and 90, honestly not that big a difference at the moment. Although ironically, given that we're talking about a Marowak deck a lot, Marowak does hit 80, so maybe there is a bit more of a difference than I'm making out. But my point here is, you can just hit the bench. Sabrina, if you're playing Hitmonlee, Sabrina becomes your friend. Force your opponent to put a different Pokemon active. Hopefully they don't have enough energy to actually do anything with it. And then from there, you can start spreading damage around to the bench. And ideally here, if you can bring everything down to 80 HP remaining, then Marowak only needs 1 heads, and you have a 75% chance of hitting at least 1 heads, and then Marowak becomes a way better Pokemon. Initially, we were all loving Hitmonchan. I can't see much of an argument for playing Hitmonchan right now. It basically does 30 damage, just like the promo Mankey does, But the promo Mankey then evolves into Primeape, which is brilliant. Yes, I know once Mankey attacks, it's only got 40 HP, which is very low, blah, blah, blah. I don't really care. Mankey just puts on so much pressure that I just don't think we can justify playing Hitmonchan right now, because Mankey's just better. Kind of sadly, we do have, like, a supporter card for every typing. The supporter card here is Brock. It lets you attach a fighting energy from your energy zone to Golem or Onix. No, is the honest answer here. Just no. Onix is free energy, 70 damage. Too expensive. Way too expensive. It's got 110 HP, which is nice. But no, it's just way too expensive. And then as for your Golem, it's a stage 2 that needs 4 energy to attack. It does 150, which is great. But then it does 50 to itself, and it's a stage 2 that takes 4 energy to attack. It's largely the same as we said about Machamp EX. It's just way too slow. In terms of what you're good against here, you are basically playing this to farm Lightning decks. You're great against Pikachu, although do remember Zapdos does not have the weakness, so they can use that to try and get around it. But even then, Zapdos is a bit slow to be doing really big damage here. So you are going to be farming these Lightning decks all day long with fighting, which is what I've been doing in the Lapras event. Yay! And if anybody's playing colorless Pokemon, which I'm not sure they are, but if anybody is playing colorless Pokemon, like Wigglytuff for instance, you do hit weakness on Wigglytuff. And I have seen a few people out there starting to hype up Wigglytuff EX. So maybe there's your answer. I'm still not convinced Wigglytuff is actually good, but I know there are a bunch of people out there that are playing it, so you are at least getting that one as well. Honestly, when it comes to fighting, one of the biggest things here is that if you flip heads, you will be everything, and the speed of Primeape. Do not overlook the speed of Primeape. It is about the best turn... Going second, Primeape is about the best turn 2 Pokemon around. Because you've got Mankey hitting 30, straight into Primeape hitting 100. And if your opponent doesn't take Primeape down, you're hitting 100 every turn from then on. While you're using your turns to evolve and attach energy and all sorts. Primeape is genuinely legit. Dugtrio and Marowak are incredibly flippy. And Sandslash is fine, but it's not exactly special. It's just 100 HP that really makes a difference here. But if you can flip heads on things like Dugtrio and Marowak while getting your fast Primeape, fighting really is very good right now. And for as long as Pikachu is seeing as much play as it is, we are going to keep seeing fighting being a very, very, very good choice. And to be clear, Lightning is the most popular deck around right now. Not the single most popular deck, but if you combine all of like the top 4, then it does become the most popular typing that is played right now. Not the single most popular deck, but the most popular typing. So what's the problem? The problem is the biggest counter to this is Psychic, which is the single most played deck. Not typing, but deck. And now that deck is basically Mewtwo Gardevoir. And the problem is, like Mankey, you attack with Mankey, you go down to 40 HP remaining, and then we take a little bit of a look at Ralts, and Ralts is single energy 10. But it hits for weakness, so it becomes 20. Curlier is 2 energy 30, but it hits for weakness, it becomes 50, which will actually get a KO on the Mankey. And then, of course, we've got your Gardevoir accelerating energy. A Mewtwo hits 150, which will get a flat one-hit KO on Marowak. And Marowak can absolutely KO Mewtwo, but Marowak needs a double heads to do so. The biggest counter to these fighting decks at the moment is the Psychic ones, and they are the single, not the most played type. If you add up the Lightning, they do overtake it, but the single most played deck. And that is a little bit of an issue. Great speed with Primeape. Great if you can flip well with Dugtrio and Marowak. But potentially weak to Mewtwo. I say potentially. Weak to the Mewtwo deck is a big issue. So your farm Pikachu decks, but you might get farmed by Mewtwo, you have been warned. So there we go. There's your complete guide to playing fighting in Pokémon TCG Pocket. My guide to playing Lightning is linked in the description. So now it's over to you guys. We're going to come back, by the way, soon with Psychic being our next guide. So for now, tell me what you think about fighting. Tell me which decks you've been playing. Tell me how well it's been going in the comment section. Get us! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi. That's where we talk about Pokemon and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, join a Discord, and all kinds of fun things. And get shout-outs on the channel, like the lovely Kanto Royalty, who's been a supporter of ours for a while now and is a very lovely person. So shout out to them for the support and the loveliness. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.